The impact of this little verse I want to talk about. In 1483, in Eisleben, Saxony, a baby boy was born to a poor coal miner. He observed the poverty, so he decided he didn't want that, so he decided to be a lawyer. But in 1501, he entered the University of Erfurt, where he excelled in his studies. However, at the end of his schooling, he got caught in a terrifying storm, during which he made a vow that if he survived that, he would become a monk. He survived the thing, so he's good to his word. He entered an Augustinian monastery. Instead of going into law, he went into theology and got a doctorate. But the more he studied, the more troubled he became about his own sin. It became an obsession to him. And he indulged in the most extreme forms of self-punishment. And that was very characteristic of the church in those days, the medieval church. But even going through all that, he could never find peace. Finally, in 1509, he decided to make a pilgrimage to Rome to try to get his questions answered. But he's on foot. And as he crosses the Alps, he almost dies of a high fever. In a monastery there, they nursed him back to health. But while in the monastery, a wise monk, recognizing his frustrations with these issues, says, you need to read the book of Habakkuk, because he's troubled, about this whole issue of sin. And there's one verse that leapt out at him from Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 4. The just shall live by faith. He was haunted by that. He couldn't get it out of his mind. He finally does go to Rome, but he's disgusted with what he finds there. He actually abandons all the reasons he went there. He returns back to the University of Wittenberg, goes on to explore the revolutionary idea of justification by faith that was pointed to him by Habakkuk 2:4, but of course is the central doctrine of the Epistle of Romans. So he ultimately nailed his famous 95 Theses to the door at Wittenberg Castle Church and started a movement that's known today as the Reformation. One of the most important events in modern history from a verse, Habakkuk 2:4. At the Diet of Worms, now that's a strange phrase, the Diet is not a diet, it's a council. The Diet of Worms is the council of a town. The town is Worms, the Diet is the ruling class in the town of Worms. And they excommunicated this guy, whose name is Martin Luther, obviously, as a heretic. He went on to write commentaries that are classics today. He wrote a lot of hymns like Mighty Fortresses of God. He translated the entire Bible into German, which remains today as a classic in the Germanic language. So, all because of a little verse that changed the course of history.